Hello everyone, and welcome back to a new episode of Prismata. Let's jump back in the queue and see if we can get a match. A ball... I couldn't understand what he might mean by ball pack. No, he was saying ballpark, and... Okay. He did type ball pack, but it was clear eventually from context what he meant was ballpark. Alright, I think an Odin Rush beats Amparilla, so we don't have to worry about that too much. Bloodphage kind of supports Amparilla, but like... Also, there's Arca. Thunderhead is probably not very good. You don't want to get all that blue. Or all that green, I should say. Auric Impulse, I think helps with Odin, sort of. Yeah, it should. You don't have to float as much money. You can build Oryx instead. So that makes Odin even more compelling. What is the counter? Like Frostbrooder, Bloodphage, Ampo, I guess. If you give them enough time, maybe they can get some of that going. But I think you can get an Arca with your Odin, like shortly thereafter. I think it's gonna be pretty good to have all that absorb. I don't know. I'm gonna try to rush for Odin, and if he does anything really threatening, maybe I'll have another idea. But I don't know, like Amparilla will face a lot of pressure from Odin, and so that is why I think that we have at least some play going for it. If he responds DA, I'll be scared, but I don't know that I will necessarily lose. And the Auric Impulses really do help you get it out substantially earlier if you have to. Should, because you can build more drones and not build the early blast, like the you end up often like building triple blue and then triple drone and then triple drone blast forge, and then you just like float the blue and buy like build some like a single drone, right, and 2 blast forges. You can choose not to buy the blast forge. Yeah, okay, here it comes, I guess. Choose not to buy the Blast Forge on turn, I guess it's 4. And that lets you get, like, some Auric Impulses on the next turn instead, I think. I mean, I don't know, I'm still gonna go for it. It's too late to change my mind now. Okay, yeah, Auric is good for him. Better than Drone, probably. So here's the thing. This would be the natural build, and then next turn we would build BB Drone, right? But if I cut the Blast Forge, then next turn I can build like a Drone and some Oryx, and then the Blast Forge. Cutting the Blast Forge gives me... Does it help? It seems like it should help. I don't see how. Maybe it doesn't help. I think I should build a Blast Forge, because a wall might actually be good. How many drones am I buying next turn? Like a maximum 2, right? So this can be an Auric Impulse, and it gives me a little bit more flexibility. Sure. Okay, he's spending all his red on wall. Tarsiers, which suggests Amparilla. In fact, oh my god. I didn't think about what Auric would do for the Ampo player. But, like, can he really build Animus here? No, because he won't be able to build the Amparilla next turn, right? He has to cut a Tarsier if he wants to do that. And then it's, like, not nearly so scary. I think one of his earlier drones should have been an Auric also. Go for 9 drones. So here's what we can do. We can go Wall, Blast Forge, Auric. Right? And then we get the Odin. Seems pretty good. I'm glad that I did build... that I had the presence of mind last turn to build that Auric Impulse instead of a drone. Because basically the drone that I was planning to build this turn, I didn't build. And the drone that I built last turn, I'm finally selling back next turn, is my thinking here. He's going to be putting on a lot of pressure, of course, but I can withstand pressure a lot better than he can. Yeah, he actually, like, can you Ampo here? I don't see how, not with 7 threats staring down at you, right? You can hold 2 drones? That's not enough. I think he would have had a chance, though, if he had aimed for 9 drones instead of 10 and used more Auric Impulses. He could have gotten the Amparilla out before my Odin instead of after it, and then I'd be under some pressure. Yeah, I looked at Bloodphage as an Amparilla enabler, but I didn't look at Auric Impulse, which I think was much more realistic. Because you need to get it out in a big hurry, and Bloodphage lets you, like, drone up a bit more, have more use for the red. But it's the opposite of getting it out earlier because you're investing so much into this and, like, what? No, you're just, like, totally dead, right? I probably should be an NG. Yeah, well, Auric. What can he do to me, right? Come on. Give up. Give up. I want to emote you. No. Okay, just builds nothing. Fine. Well, I tried. I like that emote for this scenario. The stats are uninteresting, but I guess we'll look. Auric Imp. Wow, these are straight lines! I went from 0 to 7, stayed there, and he just sort of climbed by 2s until he gave up. Auric Impulse makes these lines kind of funny, the economy lines, because you go down and so on. But, so, I do want to look at, like, I sort of stumbled into a good way to get Odin while also getting a wall. It felt like Auric Impulse should help somehow, and I'm still not sure what the right way to do it is if you don't need this wall here. Because it seems like cutting this Blast Forge ought to help somehow. And I guess what you do... Okay, so let's analyze here. First, for comparison, I'll show you the traditional opening. We'll just... my opponent's passing forever now. The traditional opening is this, right? You float the blue, you build a drone, you do nothing with it, and then you have just enough to build an Odin. Fine. But we can improve that at least a little bit. One way would be to take the exact ordinary line and just throw in one extra auric impulse. Now we have an extra $1 next turn, right? But I think this is, like, assuming you don't care at all about blue, can I just, like, please don't build these Tarsiers so I don't have to, like, worry about this crap. So here's the line we were looking at. Right. So this is all fine. It's slightly better than the traditional Odin. But if we wasted $5 on this blue, and we could have delayed it a bit more, couldn't we? Like, supposing we cut this. The problem is you can't actually build any more auric impulses because you don't have any more engineers. But what if you make one of these an auric impulse somehow? Like, does that help? It should. I think. Like, it's at least neutral. Now in this turn, we're building 3 blast forges. How many drones did we end up in the usual line, I guess is the question? Because if we're building a drone here, then this auric impulse, like, was meaningless, right? So the only way this line's actually good is if you, like, just shift by the auric impulses. With the effect being that you have 2 fewer drones next turn, but $7 more. I guess that's an improvement. Because, like, if you want to, you can just build the drones, right? And it's the same as the line where we just added 1 auric impulse and have $1 more, I guess. Except that it's slightly more flexible, because if you want to, you don't need these drones. But you typically want the drones because having, like, 15 drones and triple blue is pretty hard to work with. So maybe there just isn't anything very clever you can do with an auric impulse on this turn, just because you're so short on engineers. If you had more energy, you could do something with the gold, but you want to buy some drones, and, like, by the time you've bought as many as you want, you don't have the energy to buy auric impulses, and so floating the $5 is the best you can do with it, right? But in this line here, the one I took where I actually wanted access to the blue, I did the same thing, basically, of turning one of the drones on the blast forge turn into an auric impulse, because I'm definitely not triple droning next turn. You can't get out Odin that way. Use that to build a wall, and then, like, blast forge, and look at that. We have just enough to build that auric impulse, and we got the wall out, which you normally can't do. Right? Like, what's an Odin line without auric impulse that gets a wall out? I don't think you can drone here, can you? Well, maybe you can, because you just, like, can't build any drones. No, you can't. Now you can't get the Odin, right? So yeah, auric impulse lets you get out a wall on your way to Odin. That is a useful thing to remember if you need it. So you get to float. I'm only floating for 2 turns though, right? How come I end up with $3 extra if auric impulse just makes each turn that you floated gain you $1? Ah, it's because I'm also selling back the drone. I'm not rebuying it. No. That doesn't help, does it? I don't know. At any rate, this is a thing that like, works and is cool, so that's good to keep in mind. Now I want to look at his line. He found himself $1 short on this turn, right? He wants 2 Tarsiers, and then he wants an Animus, but if he does, he'll have only $12, and that's not enough for Amberilla. So let's back up and look at the last drone that he bought and try unbuying it, right? here. This drone. Say he says 9 drones is how many I want, right? And I pass. He gets Tarsiers and continues not buying the drone, but happily, he can build 2 Oryx now. Which helps a little more, right? Now he builds 2 more Tarsiers and an Animus. And he has the same problem? Why? What? This should be worth more money, shouldn't it? I don't understand. What did he do in the game? He had 10 drones and an Auric. Huh? My... Oh. No. So what we're trying to do is get to this position here, but with him selling this drone back, right? And if he could do that, if he could sell this drone for $3, then he would have 13. And it seems to me that by building Oryx, like building exactly what he built in the game, but transforming his last drone into an Auric, should mean that he can treat this as a drone for several turns, and then when he wants to sell the drone back, he just doesn't rebuy it, right? Ah. But he has to sell it back a turn too early, right? I think that's what happened. Right? He does this, 2 Tarsiers. Ah, right, no, of course. We don't want to sell the drone back now, we want to sell it back next turn. So he gets the Auric Impulse. And he'll have 13 next turn. Now he gets the Amparilla before my Odin instead of after. And probably he still loses because my Odin, like, is enough to kill everything he has even if he slaughters all my drones. I can just defend with every drone and like click Odin's and he loses. But it's certainly more convincing, right? Let's try to actually do this in detail and see just how things would look for me. I know we're like getting a little into the weeds on this, but I think it's interesting, like figuring out how both of us could work Oryx into these builds, and it'll help me in future sets where Ampo or Odin are combined with Auric to get a more rushy path to one of these units. So what I did was, yes, this of course. He builds 2 Tarsiers, continues to float the drones, and now we're building this. He sells back 1 drone to get him this Animus, but keeps the other. And then next turn, he sells back even the last one. Now I can do this to get the Odin. He builds the Amparilla. And he's breaching me, but I'm getting Odin. Fine. You know, come on in, I guess. And now he really has to, like, defend, right? But he only has 9 drones. So, I mean, there is sort of a downside associated with this reckless path that I'm making him take. I guess this is the defense. Probably something like this. I think it's important that I don't let him breach me, and like I could do this, I guess, and then he can breach but doesn't kill anything. And actually, like, he can't click that rhino, right? So I can take the extra $1, I guess, and what do I need the $1 for? Let's not go crazy. Let's do this. And I guess he defends again like this. Wait. Why did I hold the drone then? Because otherwise he can breach for 3 and kill a splitter. Right. I somehow miscounted what he was breaching for, I guess. Right. Okay, this is a breach for 1, which would have been 2 if I hadn't held the drone, and then 3 if he clicks the rhino. So he does this, and like this continues to defend, just barely. He has a breach for 2. Probably 1, right? Because he can't click this. And my 5 damage just wipes him out. So it's a pretty close battle. The Emperor still loses, but it's a lot more exciting if he counts out to get this a bit earlier. And I don't want I don't want to say like my opponent like just counted badly, lol, should have gotten the Emperilla earlier. It's true that if you were paying, like if you were counting everything perfectly, you would realize that like, yes, this should be an Auric Impulse. But well, this one is easy, right? It's this turn where the Auric Impulse is a bit surprising. And I don't think I would look so far ahead as to see that, you know, here it is turn 2, better build an Auric Impulse, because of course on turn 5 I'm going to be $1 short if I don't. Like, I'm not going to be able to math that out. And so it's quite reasonable for my opponent to have made this mistake. Drone Animus is a pretty natural Fastimus line, right? But in situations like this one, you can, generally speaking, keep your options open with Auric Impulse by, if you're fairly confident that next turn you will have energy to spare, and this turn you are planning to buy a drone, then you can increase your options at no cost by buying Auric Impulse instead of the drone, right? And in the traditional Fastimus line, you buy a drone this turn and a drone next turn, which means you'll be floating in energy next turn. So you can say, well, all right, I can just be more flexible with my line if instead of drone, I build Auric Impulse. If I decide I want to keep the drone, I can just build 2 drones next turn instead of 1, and it transposes to the same thing. Right? Let's look, in fact. So this is the traditional Fastimus. And then you build this, right? At the end of turn 3, you have 11 drones, 2 Tarsiers, and no money. And by building an Auric Impulse on turn 2, you keep yourself the same options. You can have 11 drones, 0 money, and 2 Tarsiers. But by building the Auric Impulse, you have the option to, whenever you like, sell back the drone, or to cement it by buying a drone, as long as there's never going to be a turn where doing this means you don't have the energy to buy drones that you want. And at least on turn 2 in Fastimus, you know that turn 3 you're not building 2 drones, so you might as well build 1 Auric Impulse. And having done so, Now you have a more difficult choice. You can say, do I really want to be on 9 drones forever? Because if you build 2 Auric Impulses, you're sort of committing to that. You won't have the spare energy to buy any real drones. If you buy any drones, you're sort of just cementing the Auric Impulses that you're buying on turn 3 into real drones. So at this point, you could say, well, you know, what if I were to do this? This turns out not to be good enough, but it's at least something you can think about. Like, and from here, you can say, well, what am I going to do next turn? Tarsier, Animus. Have $2 left and 10 income. Right? That's actually not good enough. Then you can say, well, but what if I could sell back this drone? Now I'll have 17. Can build Tarsier, Animus, have $3 left and 9 income. That's still just 12, but Auric Impulse will let you float the drone 1 more turn. So I think that you can arrive at this Auric optimized Amparilla build somewhat naturally, as long as you are careful about... You don't have to think like 4 turns ahead, right? You can do it by thinking like 1 or maybe 2 turns ahead. And that might be enough to make this line accessible to more players who don't like perfectly think out the whole opening. As indeed I don't, right? But some of the stronger players can see exactly what they'll need several turns in advance. So maybe they don't need these rules of thumb. But for me, that's a way that I might have been able to work out the better Amparilla build here. Although, as I said in the analysis, before and after the game, I thought that Odin would beat it. And it did. But still, it would be better to build the Amparilla correctly. So anyway, we finished the ticket. Here are some numbers. And let's get cracking on that platinum ticket, shall we? Ruined Shadows versus Cornut, the only live game. 2 master players who are not in the top 200. Should be fun. Wow, a lot of green-blue. And a lot of big absorbers, right? Defense Grid, Infusion Grid, Omega, although you probably won't be absorbing with this while you have a bigger absorber like Defense Grid, but also Arca. Like, I feel like Defense Grid is probably not going to see play because of Arca. It's just too much value to deny your opponent the absorb, and also you want to absorb on Arca anyway, so the Defense Grid's kind of not doing much for you. I feel like the top player was about to build Defense Grid and then lose to the Arca. That's what it looked like to me. Alright, what's this about? Perforator, Fang, and Ossified is kind of like a thing. It's pretty fast, pretty rushy. But I think that Centurion should be enough to hold that off and then just build more attackers. Particularly with Aegis around for defense, Grenade Mech and Lance Tooth for absorb denial and breach threat. And finally, Xenoguardian as a way to like get absorb on the way up to Centurion, so you don't necessarily have to rush quite so hard if your opponent is pressuring you enough. So I don't know if I'm going to do all of those things, but you know, and like honestly, Perforator is good for that strategy as well. Honestly, Shadowfang might be good. I don't know that I'm going to do all of these things, but they all occur to me as like tools in the toolkit of someone who is trying to get to Centurion against a Shadowfang Rusher, which seem like the 2 main lines here. Someone might go Grenade Mech plus Lance Tooth to try to pressure down a Centurion player, I guess. That's an idea. We should consider that first. It is pretty cool. But I think I'm gonna try Centurion anyway. Okay, he's gonna follow. Fine. So we don't have to worry about the super early Shadowfang pressure. But I suspect both of us will be getting Shadowfangs someday. behind the Centurion. Ossified Drone and Frostbite are... Oh, Frostbite! Ooh, that's pretty scary for Centurion, isn't it? Honestly, I just want a Conduit before I want any blue. I don't want to be, like, trapped into building an attacker next turn that I don't really want. And then I can spend 18 bucks next turn if I want. Sorry. I can spend 16 bucks on 2 drones and 2 blast forges to let me get out a quick Xeno, maybe. Or I can just triple drone and a single blast forge. I'm not sure. Anyway, Frostbite is kind of scary for a Centurion player because A, it like gets value by freezing the Centurion so that you don't absorb with it, but B, it can also get value by freezing your other defenders so that you lose the Centurion. So you have to defend quite carefully with Frostbite around. However, I think that Ossified Drone and Xeno Guardian are both good counters to Frostbite, and you want a red sync anyway, so like Ossified Drone is fine. If we were, say, both had Centurion and were building Shadowfangs, and one of us was building Ossifieds while the other was building Frostbites, I'd rather be the Ossified player because you get them for free, and they basically cancel out a Frostbite. So something like this, just to get an early Xeno Guardian. And then I could build like a Grenade Mech and then maybe some Lance Tooths. This is a little bit more blue than I'd like to be committed to at the moment. But I guess it won't be too long before we build the Centurion, so this is fine. Just going straight for it, huh? Wow. That doesn't feel right to me at all. You can't even do it. You're not... Okay, so I guess this is fine. You don't have to build Centurion out of this. You can't, in fact, but you can build like Xeno Guardian and some Tarsiers, and that's fine too, I guess. Now, do I want an Animus? Seems okay. It leaves me able to Centurion if I want to, although I won't. So, I mean, let's consider doing something else, I guess. But what am I doing with all my tech, right? I kind of want... Grenade Mech or Xeno Guardian and some Tarsiers, basically. And then I can... Yeah, this seems fine. I'm not going to build a Centurion next turn. It may look like I'm going to, but I won't. Unless he does something really unexpectedly aggressive somehow. I'm not sure what that would be. But if he somehow added on like 4 attack this turn, yes, I would build a Centurion. Like, I don't know, Splitter, Gauss Cannon, Rhino. He can't afford that, so I don't know. So if I build 2 Tarsiers and a Grenade Mech, then next turn I'll have 4 damage, with which I could double Lance Tooth? No, I won't, because the Tarsiers will be slow to come in. I'll just have 2. I could build a Lance Tooth, which is probably good. I think the turn that I get the Centurion is going to be the turn that I buy an Ossified Drone, or maybe it'll be a Perforator or I don't know, something. It's looking like next turn is when we want a Centurion, right? That's when he'll be over our Absorb barrier. So... gonna do this. And I won't be able to... Lance Tooth next turn if I'm spending the blue on Centurion, right? And then the turn after, I'll have these Tarsiers sitting around doing nothing, right? What I'd like is to just not have this attack so that the Centurion brings me to 4. If I can find something else useful to do with the red and the money, then great. Like, what if I just build these guys, right? Ossified Drone instead? Start getting ahead of the freeze? Nah, I'll get the bite first and the Ossified next turn. Since I'm not going to be clicking the Ossified next turn anyway, I might as well buy the Frostbites early to let them mature, and then buy the Ossified once I'm ready to use it. Which actually might not be for a while. Good, his Centurion is a bit early. I could have considered actually buying a Blast Forge here to let myself Centurion plus Lance Tooth? No, I don't have anything like the money for that. Even if I cut these 2 drones, yeah, I'd have the money then, but I'm not if I also buy a Blast Forge. I have $23? Yeah, that's not enough, and I would want the drones anyway. So we're well ahead on drones. That's something to be aware of, actually, is that, like, I don't want to get too greedy here. I think I'm probably done droning. The thing is, I'd like to get another Animus. Soonish, right? Ooh. What if I had cut a drone here? Right? I didn't have $26, which is amazing. Or if I had turned one of these Frostbites into the Ossified drone after all. Yeah, I think I'm actually going to end up floating the red next turn. And if I built an Ossified drone instead, I wouldn't be. Because I want to get a second Animus along with the Centurion. And then I can spend $20 on, like, double Lance Tooth Shadow Fang, right? Like, how insane is that? And maybe a force field or 2, depending on how hard he pushes. And we're threatening to freeze, like, which is a pretty big deal. It makes his Centurion a little bit scared to come out, although he shouldn't be, right? Like, I'm not going to spend Pixies and Frostbites unless it gets me something pretty serious, which it won't with Xeno Guardian around. Yeah, that's something to consider. These Frostbites are not so great just because of Xeno Guardian, basically. If I freeze Centurion, they're not doing that much. Okay. So here's the thing. I can do this. And I lose the Xeno Guardian to do it. But I think that's well worth it. Next turn, I'll have 4-5 attack. Okay. I could double Lance Tooth Shadow Fang again, but I don't really think I'll have the defense for that. Yeah, I should have just, like, at least one of these Frostbites should have been an Ossified drone, and I'd just have a much better time with my life if I had done that. I'd have, like, another $2 lying around. Those Lance Tooths are not good, I don't think. he has too much real attack for them to be valuable. Right, they're basically turning two of my engineers into a Xenoguardian? That doesn't feel right. So I was planning to just have 3 health, and instead I have 6. Something weird must have happened in my calculations, I guess. Huh. I'm not sure what that is. Force field protects the Xenoguardian, which seems good. I have more attack than I thought. Why is that? Oh, because I didn't lose the Xeno. Sure. Fine. I guess that's an argument for what he did, is that my Xeno's not actually doing anything right now. I'd love to have more green. Aegis's would be pretty cool. Ooh, I wonder if I should have clicked the grenade mech. I don't really want all this blue anymore. Maybe I do. Walls are pretty good units, I guess. But I'm going to be able to start defending with 1 ossified drone per turn. So, I don't know. The problem is I can't keep building all this tech, all these units anymore. Is how it seems to me anyway. And so having less tech for them would be useful. Wow, he's really pushing. Yeah, I mean, okay, frostbites are coming in. So let's say I do this. Double wall. I really should have clicked this grenade mech. Having 3 more attack right now would be a pretty big deal. Like, I can do this, and he loses a Xenoguardian. Yeah, I really wish I had done that. She's attacking for 19 and 6. Well, okay. I can just give up all the ossifieds, I guess. Not getting a lot of value this way, but I have to survive this push, I think. And I really should have done this last turn. It'd be a much different story, I think, if I had 3 more attack right now. But then again, I couldn't have built the walls, so... Yikes. Nope, can't keep them all. I thought, like, I was like, why is he only attacking for this much? It said more, but that's because of the frostbites. Ugh. I was feeling pretty good until he had this, like, super pressure turn. And, like, he's gonna buy another grenade mech here, right? No, he needs to defend. I am threatening 18 attack. So he needs to put together 8 more defense on his 15 bucks. 2 walls and a force field does it, I guess. Ooh, actually though... Yeah, he has to hold a drone because I could absorb onto the Rhino to breach for the Centurion otherwise. I don't know, shouldn't you... Well... it was important for me to freeze the Centurion because I killed a Xenoguardian as well. So it did 2 damage, and that damage included a Xenoguardian. For him, sure. It's probably fine to keep the Frostbites. Wow. I actually get to keep my Ossifites. That's nice. So this doesn't defend. I have to cut a Rhino to hold drones. I can hold 1 fewer drone because his Centurion has to absorb, meaning the Xenoguardian has to die. Now this would be a pretty gutsy play. I'd have no access to walls next turn, and so I'm pretty all in here. But I think it's the best use of my dollar I'm ever gonna get, right? Like 3 attack against him when he's already having some trouble defending. Yeah, I think I need to go for this. He's making my second Animus look pretty bad, I have to say. Getting only 2 Shadow Fangs out of it is not good enough value. And I wasn't able to get the Ossifites going soon enough. If I had not bought those Frostbites, it might be a different story. I would have a lot more drone health available. But he has to come up with, what, 15? No, -2, 13 more defense to stay absorbing, and he only has 1 blue. So he's holding a lot of drones, I think. 9 drones? Can he do that? Yeah, build a wall, hold all the drones, that defends. No Steel Splitters. So I'm losing at least 2 attack here. What? Oh my god, he's just conceding. This is the end of the game for him. Right? I just bust in here and kill all the Tarsiers. I could actually kill Landstooths, they're just as squishy. Oh, hang on. I have more damage. There you go, let's rub it in. Shadow Fang time. I think we ought to be okay with that. No, let's be cautious. Build the engineers and the blast forge and so on to get back to building walls. I'm absorbing and he's not. And I killed a bunch of his attack. So I don't need to be silly with the Shadow Fang. I think either line wins, but this one is very, very, very certainly winning. And the Shadow Fang is a bit unnecessarily aggressive. Oh, whoops, no. Thanks for the game, that's what I meant. Should be an interesting stats graph, right? Wow, what a weird one. Like, I don't know, I had a little dip here when I built those Landstooths. Economically, I had a lot more. Sure, makes sense, we knew that. So I think everything up to like here is pretty normal. And I do agree with my choice to Conduit here instead of Blast Forge. You're going to want some green, and you don't want to spend any blue right away. Right? A single Steel Splitter or wall is not what you want here. Here, I think this was not the only play you could make on this turn, but it seems like a good one. Getting down a Xenoguardian as like a stopgap absorber, and then later some soak on your way to Centurion seems good. Means I had to cut a drone, but that's fine. We're going to get back to droning any minute now. And we already talked about these frostbites. I think this was my first big mistake of the game. Well, technically I built the grenade mech first, so if it's a mistake, it would be first. And I'm not sure. Perhaps a Xeno Guardian would have been better. No, because I never really got another chance to build grenade mechs, right? And I found this one quite useful. It was able to apply a lot of pressure. I clicked like 2 blast forges with it, I think, right? So over the course of the whole game, this grenade mech built 9 grenades. And also attacked like, I don't know, a few times, doing something useful each time. Except maybe once where it didn't help. So I think this was fine, but these frostbites, I had not yet envisioned. I was planning to build a second Animus at some point, and I hadn't realized that the best time is actually on the Centurion turn. And that means that all of my gold is committed already for next turn, and therefore I'm like unable to spend the red. So what I should have done was cut at least one of these, maybe both, but build an ossified drone, and maybe this frostbite, but maybe not, right? And now, when I build the Centurion and the Animus, I can get ossifying. I have less freeze available, but my life is just a lot better, right? I can build Shadowfang, Double Tooth, Click, right? It's not that important to be like get frostbites. These guys helped to freeze like the Centurion once, but that's basically each frostbite was like a Gauss charge, right? Well, a little better, because it made him lose the Xeno Guardian. Right, it made him defend with that before he was really ready to. But they did 1 damage, and they made him put that damage on a unit that I preferred. So, you know, and here I can... Actually, I don't know how much he's attacking for at this point, because I've been skipping his turns. But I was able in the game to do this, and now I have even more defense, so surely I should be able to, right? Another drone's probably too greedy. Probably Engies or something. But you see, like, I've got similar stuff to what I had in the game, except instead of 1 frostbite, I have like 3 ossified drones, because I've been able to build them without having to spend money, right? And that should make it much easier for me to stand the pressure that his frostbites were giving me. Like, let's try to mentally snapshot, or you guys can take a screenshot if you want, this board state. Like, I have 18 drones, 5 NGs, and like 1 frostbite, and all the baseline stuff that I would have. And let's look at the real turn 10 and compare. I have 1 more drone in this line, for some reason. Oh, because I haven't ossified it. Yes. Yeah, so I have like really similar stuff, except that I've ossified 2 more of my drones, and I haven't had to force field. And all of that I get for just like giving up 1 frostbite, which I think is a great trade. His pressure turn is coming up, right? And we can see, like, how would I feel if... Let's look at the beginning of this turn. Actually, I won't even have to sack the Xeno Guardian. I can sack some ossified drones instead. Because I have like 3 of them ready to block, or maybe 2. But anyway, it's enough. And I had some NGs lying around too. So in this line, like, I would still have the Xeno Guardian. I'd have the same number of ossified drones. I wouldn't have the force field. I'd have a Xeno Guardian instead of the force field, basically. And I have 2 more engineers and 1 less frostbite. Like, everything seems way better in that world. We skip to the end of this turn, and like, yeah, everything would have been better. So I didn't ossify quite soon enough. They still provided a little bit of value, right? I spent 2 and 2 red, where the red was all completely useless, to get 4 health worth of blockers. Pretty okay. Not amazing, but you'd like better. But still enough to let me survive. So anyway, that was an improvement I could have made. Should have thought ahead about when I was getting that second Animus. You can still debate whether getting it was right at all. My opponent showed that it was pretty greedy. But if I am getting it, I should have realized earlier when I would be getting it and plan accordingly. So, other instructive points here. The second round of Landstooths may be a little greedy. I could have built like another Xeno Guardian to be more prepared. Since he is, after all, killing a Xeno. Yeah. But the Landstooths are just so good. I just decided to let Xeno do its job, which is soak. Seems okay. He did quite well to put on all this pressure all at once. I was not expecting it, even though I should have. These guys all have build time, and I just didn't believe they were coming, and I didn't think about the perfs and the grenade mech also like being super like fast attackers. All right, cool. Well, glad to get another win. And we're in the top 50. Well done. My first time. Congratulations to me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.